If I want to write abstract, then I should use the keyword abstract will denote it is an abstract class. The functionality of the method which is given in the interface. See here you have a call area which takes two parameters A and B. Inside of it we have one more class, say inner class. Then all the classes are closed. Hello everyone, myself Evelyn Jacob, working in BCA department, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. So in today's session, we are discussing about the subject C# and .NET. In this, we'll discuss Unit 2. So what is the first topic here? It is abstract class. So we've already discussed about classes. Now the other keyword is there, that is abstract. So why we use abstract? So abstract class can have both abstract method and non-abstract method. Meaning to say, if I take a class, class will have data and method. So this is abstract class. So abstract class can have both abstract methods and non-abstract methods. So but what is the limitation here is we cannot create object. For what? For abstract class. We can create an object for class, but we cannot create the object for which class? Abstract class. Then how to create the object? See, we can access the members of abstract class using the object of derived class. We should inherit the abstract class and the derived class will create the object and access the members. So this is the syntax. See, if I write only this class and base, it is just a class. If I want to write abstract, then I should use the keyword abstract will denote it is an abstract class. Then what is the syntax of it? We'll write within this braces and this will be the data, then method. Then this is the derived class. It is inherited with the base. So you can write similarly data and method, but you can create an object and access the members of abstract class. Abstract methods. See, a method does not have a body is known as abstract method. We don't define the method, we just declare the method. That is called abstract method. So how to write? This is the example. See, we have taken a method draw of return type void. And what it is a abstract. So you can see we have not defined, we have not opened the bracket and closed the bracket, written the code. We have just declared a abstract method. Then we come about sealed class. See, what is class actually? Class contains data and members, but we are making the class sealed. So why it is used? So sealed class, see, we may want to prevent a class being subclass. I don't want to make my class inherited by other class. So what I do? I make the class sealed. Sealed my class, which is given here. Sealed class. What is the class name? A class. And this is the body of the class. So what happens? I don't want to make it my class to be inherited by this class. So I'll make an attempt. What I'll do? I'll take my B class as derived class. How to inherit? We have already discussed. That is with a colon. And I'll call this A class. So any attempt to inherit this class will cause what? Will cause an error. So sealed class cannot be derived, cannot be inherited. Next, we finished with sealed class. Now it is sealed method. You know method, if you want to do certain tasks, if you want to write some certain code, we'll write inside method. So if the method is said to be sealed, a derived class cannot override. See, for example, if you have add function in base class, again add function in derived class, this is derived class, this is base class. So derived class cannot override the base class if it is sealed. That is sealed method. Then with the example, we'll look into it. So we already know that this is class A, this is base class. Then what about B? This is derived class. I'll say D. So what happens is we have a function fun and we have the same function fun. In the base class, we have to use the word virtual. This is reserved word, keyword. Then in the derived class B, I have to use override. This is also a keyword, but I'm making it sealed. Another keyword is there. Okay. Next is polymorphism. In the beginning, we discussed about polymorphism, encapsulation. Then what is polymorphism? If I take polymorphism, this is split into two. Say one is poly and one is morph. So if I say poly, it is nothing but many. Morph is forms. So polymorphism will tells you it takes many forms. For example, if you take a student can take the form. In college, he is a student. At home, he may be a son. For a friend or relative or whatever it is. That is polymorphism. Then what are the types of polymorphism? See, there are two types. If I say static, another one will be dynamic. Or I can say, instead of static, I can say compile time. Another word, it is runtime for dynamic. This is the two types of polymorphism. If it is static or compile time, what are the examples here? It can be method overloading or operator overloading. So, if it is runtime, it can have overriding. So, we have already discussed this with the keyword override. Next. So, what is compile time polymorphism? Is achieved by overloading. Overloading, that is method overloading and operator overloading. If I say compile time, it is overloading. Runtime, it is overriding. How it is? So, runtime polymorphism is achieved by which method? Overriding method. You can also say a word called late binding. What about this? This is early binding. Compile time polymorphism. Next. So, how the method can be overloaded? See, having two or more method with the same name, but different parameters. I can add two numbers. I can also add three numbers. Add the same method, but parameters is different. It may be 2, 3 or many. That is called method overloading. So, method overloading is implemented polymorphism, right? See, it is taking poly means many, morph means many forms. So, add has many forms. So, method overloading is used when the methods are required to perform similar task. Similar task, all is add only, but different input, right? Different input parameters. I already told, it depends on how much numbers will you add. Or you can take the example of your total. How much subject you are adding, right? Next, we'll see with the example for what? For method overloading. So this is all the common syntax. You all know this using system. Then inside my class program, I will write a statement in type, that is A. Next you have a display function. So in this display function, that is string of B. So here also you have a display function, that is A is printed. Here also you have a display function where B is of type string. Same name but different parameter return type. See, this is integer, this is string. Okay. So this is the method overloading. Then in the main, what we do is we create an object. Then we call the function. Two functions is there. One is display of 100, that is integer, then display of string. For us it is two function, but what we say, we don't say two function, we say it is method overloading. Okay, next, what about overriding? So if I want the concept overriding, then I should follow inheritance. If I say inheritance, there will be two class. One is base class and it is derived class. So what is derived class? Derived class is the one which acquire the property of base class. So if the derived class defines the same method as the base class, meaning to say both has the same method, then it is known as method overriding. We don't say overload, we say override if it is in inheritance. Next, it is used to achieve in runtime polymorphism. In runtime, it decides which to override, whether to call a base class function or to call a derived class function. In simple words, we can say overriding is a feature that allows a subclass or a child class to provide specific implementation. If I don't want to call the base class, what I do is I'll call the derived class. I can add some more functionality in my derived class. So how to achieve this overriding? Which keyword to use? See, you need to use virtual keyword where in base class, if it is override method is there, I have to use virtual keyword. For where? In base class. Then for derived class, I have to use override method. This is about overriding. Then we'll have this example. So we know this is a base class, right? In the base class, what we did is we had a function display. And what keyword we have to use? Virtual. Just a console.writeLine statement is there, base class display. Then there is another display function. What we do is we say override. Then we say it is a derived class display. This is the syntax of it. So, but what we do is overriding is achieved in inheritance. So, the derived class will have to inherit the properties of base class with this colon property. Next, again we have a main function. Then what we do is we create an object, then we call the display function. This is about method hiding. See why the method hiding is needed. I don't want to show the implementation to other classes, other programs. I will do method hiding. How it is achieved? See, we can hide the methods of a base class from a derived class. I don't want my base class method to get noticed with the derived class. So I'll hide the method. That is called method hiding. Or you can also say method shadowing. Right? In this method hiding, what I do is we'll have a base class, then there's a display function, base class display, and for this we have a console.writeLine, that is derived class display. So same concept, we have derived this, and what we have did, we have created an object for which class? For derived class. Then we are calling what? The function display. Next, after this we'll come to the interface. So we already discussed that multiple inheritance in C# is achieved through interfaces. What is interface? Interface is also a blueprint of a class. We know that class contains data and members. Then what about interface? So it is like a abstract class. What is abstract class? We don't define a method. Then interface also same. We don't define a method. We just declare a method. Then who will write this method? Who will implement the method? The class which implements the interface have to write the code for it. It cannot have a method body. So we cannot have the implementation. And cannot be used to create object. We cannot create an object for which one? For interfaces. Then that is called instantiated. That is, object is not created. Then, I already discussed this. Multiple inheritance is possible with interfaces. So, what is the syntax of the interface? Interface name. I can give any name. Say interface student or interface rectangle. Next, here is the declaration of method. Same example, if I say factorial function, I can write. But I can't write the code. I can't write the implementation. Then syntax for implementing interface. Now I have to write the code. How shall I write the code? What I do is, I'll take one more class and implements. This colon will tell you implements the interface. Next. So we already discussed multiple inheritance, but how to do with interface? C# allows the implementation of multiple interfaces with the same method name. So, in this multiple interfaces, how to write multiple interface? What is the syntax? See, here you have class rectangle. This is a class. And what about this polygon and color? That it should be interface. Right? So, in this interface, you can add the functionality of the method which is given in the interface. See here, you have a call area which takes two parameters A and B, and the code you can write down here. So, this is an example of interface polygon. In this polygon, we have already discussed, that is in the previous slide, call area was there. Now, we have to write the code of it. Next, there is one more interface, color. Here you have a function get color. So, the class implements two interface. Now, we have two interface, that is polygon and color. Now, we have to write the functionality for call area. So, what we write is, we'll say A into B assigned to area, and this area will be displayed using console.writeLine. Next, again we'll define the method getColor, meaning to say we are writing the functionality. So, what we are saying a message, it is a red rectangle, and we are creating object for, what is this rectangle? It is a class. Then call the method calculate area and passing the arguments 100, 200. Then we'll call the getColor. Okay, this is multiple interfaces. So, we know class. Now, we'll nest the class. So, class, and again inside a class, we'll have one more class, that is nested classes. So, class we already know it is a user defined. It is not predefined. Class, structure, enumeration, it is all user defined. So, it is a prototype which objects are created. With the class, we create an object. With the object, we access what? Data members. So, nested classes, this feature enables the user to logically group the classes. We are grouping the classes. So, if it is one class, we don't say nesting. If you want to group the classes, this is nested classes. So, how to group the classes? How to do nesting of the classes? This is class outer class. Okay. Inside of it, we have one more class, say inner class. Then all the classes are closed. So, method overloading is over. Next, operator overloading. So, operator is different from the method. So, we have to use some operators. So, how it is possible and what keyword should be used? Operator overloading gives the ability to use same operator to do various operation. I use same operator, say very good example is plus. I can add these numbers, or I can concatenate my first name with last name. So, here you have two operators, meaning to say it is one operator doing two different functions, right? It provides additional capabilities to C# operator when they are applied to user-defined data type. We are going to define the data type. So, we say user-defined data type. So the operator should be overloaded. If you just use a plus b, it is not overloaded. Again the plus is used, then it is overloaded. How to do it? By defining a function. If you want to overload a method, you will define a function. Here also we define a function, but with operator. Next, what is the syntax then? First, you have to specify the access specifier. What are the access specifier? Public, internal, protected, private. That is your choice. Next, class name. This is the keyword. Operator. This is operator symbol. We have used plus. And the parameters or arguments. And we'll write the code inside this operator. So what are the operators available? Only plus? No, there are many operators. What are those? See, if I take unary operator, it is plus, minus and so on is there. If I take binary operator, again you have plus, minus into all the arithmetic operators. Then what about comparison operators? These are equal, not equal and only one single equal. These can be overloaded. But what about this? Conditional logical operator. What are the conditional? We usually check in our if statements like ampersand is there, or is there. So we cannot overload it directly. Which operator? This conditional operator. Next, what are the assignment operator? We usually do for the like A is equal to B or B is equal to something. That is assignment. Here also you can have plus equal to, star equal to, that is into equal to. So these are the operators. So what are these operators? How we can implement using operator overloading. So when I say unary operator, the return type can be anything, but it should not be void. So we should not use void for the unary operator. It can be anything. So what is the syntax then? If I use unary operator, say I have to use operator keyword. This is the symbol, that is unary operator. Next, operator object. So we can say this operator is a symbol that denotes a unary operator. Next, what about binary operator? So in the binary operator, work with two operand. You need to have two operand, say A and B, and then we'll use A plus B. That is binary operator. So what are the examples of binary operator? We discussed, right? Plus. Similarly, minus, all arithmetic operator, add, subtract, multiply, divide. Next, these are all arithmetic assignment operator. What arithmetic assignment operator? From the equal, plus equal, into equal. Next, what is the syntax for it? So binary means you can say two operand. So we have taken two object. Here we'll work with the object. Next, operator keyword. So this is the example. So starting with the class, we say calculator. So we have given a number which of type integer. Then this is what calculator, it is a default constructor having the same name of the class. Next we'll have one more parameterized constructor, meaning to say we have given parameter, that is n is equal to, we have assigned to number is integer. Now we have the concept overloading. So what we overload is, first we'll declare calculator operator. I told operator is what? Keyword. What operator we are using? Plus. Then we'll create an object calc1 and calc2. That is of type class. I've already told, here we'll do the operation with the object. So I've taken directly the object. Next, we have taken one more object, calc3. Now what we have to do is, so calc.number plus calc1.number, we have added this and we have assigned to this. Which one? calc3.number. Then we'll return this calc3. Okay. Next we have a display function. In the display function, we just display a message with a number. What's the answer for the number? In the main function, what we do, we create 3 objects, num1, num2. We'll pass the parameters 240 and we'll add this 2 object, num1 plus num2 and assign to num3. Then each object will call display function. So this will tells you operator overloading. So directly we have added this 2 objects. Next, delegates. If you're familiar with pointers, even delegates also same. What is delegates then? Delegates are similar to pointer to function. What is a function? Method. Now I'll point to a function. So that is delegate. But what we say a delegate in C# is, it is a reference type variable. It is also a variable. What variable? It is reference. It is referring to what? That holds the reference to a method. So that is a delegate. It is a type that represents reference to a method with a particular parameter list and return type. Till here we were directly declaring a method and write the implementation. Now we'll refer using delegates. Then what is the syntax? So syntax is delegate type can be declared using delegate word. Keyword I have to use. Which keyword? Delegate keyword. So this is delegate keyword, then return type, then this is the name of the delegate. It can be anything. That is your choice. Then the parameters list, and this is about delegates. So next we'll come to the example. How to write a delegate. So we'll take this public class, that is delegate example. A class name is this. What we do is we'll assign number to 100. Then we have called the add function. We'll take n, that is integer. So we have added number plus n and assigned to where? Number. And we have returned this number. Now here what we do is, in the main function, we have to initiate the delegate. We have to create a reference to the delegate. So what I do is, we have added 2 objects C1 and C2. Next what we do is, we assign this mul to C2. C2 is also an object. Next we call the method using delegate. See, we have directly passing the parameters 20. Then we are giving a message after C1 delegate number is. Then we are calling another method get number. Similarly, this continues. Last we give a message after C2 delegate number is, and this method, that is get number, is called. Then what about multicasting delegate? So delegate is one reference, but what is multicasting? So delegate, we already know it is reference to more than one method. That is multicasting delegate. If it is one reference, it is a delegate. More than one reference, that is multicasting delegate. So multicasting delegate is known as a combinable delegates. So in this multicasting delegate, if I want to say multicasting, I have to use more than one method. So next we'll go to the event. So what is event? See, when I click on the mouse, what happens? An event is raised. What event? Click. When I press any of the key, that is also event. That event is called key press. So what is event in C#? Events definition is same. So events are user actions such as key press, click, mouse. That is all event. Then the events are declared and raised in a class. So if I want to write an event, then what I should do? I should declare first. Right? I should declare. Then I have to raise the event, means call the event. So events use the publisher-subscriber model. Events is nothing but, according to here, we have a publisher subscriber model. So what is publisher then? So we got to know the word publisher. Publisher is an object that contains the definition of the event. So it publish what? The definition of the event. And the delegate. See, if I want to use event, I should use delegate also. Next, what about subscriber? Subscriber is an object that accepts the event. If publisher publish the event, the subscriber should accept what event you are passing. And it should also provide what? Event handler. So this diagram will give you an example. Even though it is an event, we should start with a delegate because event is linked with what? Delegate. So first we'll declare a delegate. So then we have to declare an event based on the delegate, right? Then fire the event. What event is there? It is a click or key press. Fire the event. Next we'll have the subscriber and the application. Here you have application 1 and application 2. If I say application 1 as subscriber, even application 2 also is a subscriber. So what it does is it fires the event handler. Here also same but different application. So how to do with the program? Now we are doing what? Events. So this is a program of class. In the main directly we are writing what? Creating an object B1. Next, what happens is we create an object for this, then we'll register the event. Okay, here this statement will register an event and we are calling the function start process. Next, the event handler subscriber class, what we are doing is we have calling a function B1 process completed, which is of type void. So void means we are just printing a message on the output screen. So now here is a delegate. We know that we have to use delegate in our events. Say in the delegate we have a notify function. That is the name is notify. If I take the class process business logic, what we do is we'll start process. So start process has been declared there. Here we'll define. In the definition, a print statement is there, process started. Next, we'll call the function on process completed. Okay. Then we have the on process completed definition of it and it is a virtual. We have to use the keyword virtual. So what is happening here? We have writing the code for the on process completed. Next. See, we are all doing the programs. Ultimately, when we build our application, we are facing these errors. And what is errors? If it is successful, no errors. But if there are errors, we have to go through the errors and fix the errors. So errors refers to the mistakes or fault. Without, the program will not run. Okay. Then, so during execution or development, if we find errors, we don't get the desired output. So what are the errors? So errors can be classified into two types, that is compile time errors and runtime errors. So what is compile time errors? You all know compile time errors. We say syntax error. Compile time errors are the errors that occurred when we write wrong syntax. See, I don't know the logic or I don't know the condition statements, how to start with. The syntax error is all about this compile time errors. So what are the most common mistakes in compile time errors? So one is missing semicolon. You may not write this semicolon or missing the brackets in class, or this may be missed, right? And the methods, misspelling of identifiers and keyword. See, we have used a keyword virtual. You may write, instead of you may write A. This is wrong. Keyword is wrong. Then missing double quotes. So this has been missed in your console.writeLine. So you have another one, say undeclared variables. You are using A, but A is not declared, that is integer, float, whatever it is. So these are compile time errors. And what is runtime errors? Runtime errors are sometimes program may successfully compile but do not run properly. So syntax error is not there, but in runtime some logic mistakes is there. That is runtime error. Such programs may produce wrong result. So you don't get the desired output. Why you don't get? Because wrong logic. So logic, your coding is not done properly. So what are the most common runtime errors? Divide by 0. Dividing an integer by 0, that is the most common type we do in a arithmetic operation. So accessing an element that is out of the bounds of an array. You have declared an array of 10 elements. When you access 11th element, you get what? Runtime error. Trying to store a value into an array of incompatible class. Right? Similarly, attempt to use a negative size for an array. Then, what is exception then? Exception is a problem that arises during the execution of a program. So, when you run the program, you may get exception. So, you can handle this exception in your C# program. So, what we do is exception provide a way to transfer the control from one part of a program to another. Then how to know what exception is arised? So we'll use with a try and catch block. What is try block? Try block identifies which type of exception is raised. Whether it is divide by 0 or array index out of range. There are so many types of exception. First we'll write inside the try block. And catch block catches that exception. Catches that exception and give you a message. Okay? So, we have to use catch keyword. Then what about finally? So, finally block is used to execute a given set of statement whether an exception is thrown or not. See, try block will write exception. Catch will catch that exception. But finally, even though there is no exception, it will execute. Which block? Finally block. Then what about throw? It throws an exception. That time we don't use try catch block, directly we'll throw the exception. So how to write the syntax? We'll write try keyword and the statement causing the exception. Then with a catch, here is the exception name and a variable. Here we'll write that code of it. So a try can have more than one catch block. So we have written how many catch block is there? 3 catch block is there. Last will followed with a finally. So the statements will be executed even there is no exception. So here you can see this try block and this catch block. If there is an exception, it comes to catch block. This is the exception handling mechanism. So we'll start with the example. Class div numbers. What we do is we have a function div numbers, result is 0. And inside this division we have num1 and num2. What we do is we'll divide this and we'll store in the result. So in the catch we'll have a divide by 0 exception. This is a keyword. D is capital, B is capital, Z is capital, E is capital. Instead of giving space, it is given as capital letters. Then here you have a message, exception caught, and the message is in the E variable, which is of type exception. Last is the finally, just printing the message of the result, which is stored in this variable. In the main function, what we do is we'll have a object of the div numbers, and what we do is we pass numerator 25 and denominator 0. That is 25 by 0 will cause your exception. So we can define exception classes. So what are the exception classes in C#? C# exception are represented by classes. So where is the exception there? In the system exception class, you can find many exceptions. So first is divide by 0 exception. So In system.applicationException class support exception generated by application program. So what are the exceptions there will be supported by this exception. Next, I want to handle some exception. What I do is system.io.io exception with handles IO exception. If I want to use index out of range exception, I have to use this statement. Similarly, there are many exceptions. Depending on your program, you have to use the exception. So array type mismatch exception is there and null reference is there. So array type mismatch I have already told. If the array is declared int, you have to use integer variables. You can't mismatch what? The type of it. Again, null reference exception. So we already discussed this divide by 0 exception. We are trying to divide by 0. Next, you have out of memory exception. So memory is out of memory exception. So handles errors generated from insufficient free memory. And this is the common exception, stack overflow exception. This is also an error generated from stack overflow. So if I take the exception hierarchy, what we have, we'll create an object and then exception. In exception, we can have two types, that is system exception and application exception. So in system exception, we already discussed this. These are the external exception. What are the common type of exception arise in a program? This is application exception where you have argument null exception or argument out of range exception. So whatever exception is there, it is divided into system and a application. Next, now we'll throw an exception. So you can throw an object if it is either directly or indirectly derived from the system.exception. We all know that exception is derived from which class? System.exception class. So here, what we are doing, we are using a catch statement and we are throwing the exception using the throw keyword. Next, custom exception. In this custom exception, you can see the syntax, how we can define the custom exception. See, custom means it is defined by us, that is user defined, or we can say custom exception. Then how is the syntax? We are using throw with the keyword new. So in this new, we are creating our own exception. Next, throwable underscore subclass. It is an example, or you can say arithmetic exception. So in our program, what we do is we define our own exception for a divide by 0. See, that is colon exception. So what is exception here? We are deriving from this exception class and there is a function divide by 0. We give a message exception is occurred. What we do in our main program? What we do is division operation is a method. The return type is double. It takes numerator and denominator. If denominator is 0, we'll throw an exception. Otherwise, what it should do? It should divide. Numerator divide by denominator. So, as usual, we'll create an object, we'll assign a number, that is numerator 9 and denominator 0. In the try block, what we do is, we'll create the object and call this division operation, that is a method. Next, in the console.write line, we are taking the quotient variable. This inside the try block. Now, we'll write inside a catch block. In the catch block, we have printing the message from the exception E dot message. This is a property. Nested try block. So, if you have one try block, it is not nested. Now, we'll nest. So, try block will be nesting. Nesting of the try and catch block is allowed in where? In C#. The nesting of try block means one try block can be nested. Same we have discussed nesting of classes, here nesting of try block. Then what is the syntax? See, this is the outer try block. See, it is open. One more try block is there, which is inner try block, and again the code. That is what is nesting of try block. So, And again catch block also is been nested. That is, inner catch block is there, then outer catch block is there. So we had one exception. So what exception? Stack overflow exception is can be avoided using checked and unchecked. So we can say stack overflow are usual problem during arithmetic operation, right? So C# supports two operators, checked and unchecked, which can be used for checking or unchecking the stack overflow during when? During program execution. So how to do this? With an example. So A is some number we had given and B also is so much numbers we have given. Then what we do is we have to use the checked. Then what we do is we multiply A into B. Why we have taken, see how many zeros are there? You can take 6 zeros. Here also you can say it is 6 zeros. So many large numbers. So we are checking whether stack overflow happens. So if it is checked A into B, then we are assigning to M. Next we have doing in this overflow exception. So stack overflow has happened. So we are printing a message, that is E. Next, what about unchecked? See, if you want to uncheck it, what we do is we don't say checked, we use the keyword unchecked. So when I use checked and unchecked, that is to avoid the stack overflow. So how to avoid? I should use inside my try block. Inside my try block, what I do, the same number, A is there, B is there, and I should use the unchecked and multiply A into B. If there is exception, we'll come into the catch and display the overflow exception message. Next, multithreading. So we all know what are threads. Then what is multithreading in C#? In multithreading in C# is a process in which multiple threads work simultaneously. We don't want a single thread to work. Why not a single thread? It consumes more time. Multithreading is, it executes faster. So it is a process to achieve multitasking. So single task, single thread, multitask by multiple thread. So I told now it saves time. Single thread, more time. Multi-thread will save the time because multitasks are being executed at a time. Then how to create a multi-thread? We have to use which namespace? System.thread. So we already know thread. Thread weight, it is a lightweight process. So what is a common example of thread then? Use of thread is implementation of concurrent programming. In operating system, we use this thread, right? So use of thread saves wastage of CPU cycle. Multi-threading. How to start this multi-threading? The very first one is unstarted state. What is this? It is a situation when the instance of thread is created, but the start method is not called. First time, the object should be created. That is called unstarted state. See, unstart. But it is not started. Okay. Next, ready state. What is ready state? It is a situation when the thread is ready to run. It is something like run state. Now it is ready to run because object is created. Now it is time to run. And it is waiting for the CPU cycle. So we already know that the thread example, it is used in OS, operating system. Next, not runnable state. Not runnable means what? It is not executable. And last is thread should be dead. That is dead state. It is the situation where the thread completes the execution. When it is completed the execution, what state it will be? Dead state, or you can say aborted. Aborted is nothing but stopped. So by this we complete the threading. Now next class we'll have the next session of it in the same second unit. Thank you.